The trial for the class action lawsuit against the UFC begins April 15th in the federal courthouse in Las Vegas. The plaintiffs are Kung Lee, Nate Corey, John Fitch, Brandon Vera, Javier Vasquez, and Kyle Kingsbury. The class they represent is over 1,200 MMA fighters who fought in the UFC between December 2010 and June 2017, but the class excludes persons who are not residents of the United States or citizens of the United States unless the UFC paid such person for competing in a bout fought in the United States. The argument that they're going to be making in court is the UFC acquired and maintained monopoly power, or in this case, monopsony power, in the market for elite professional MMA fighter services. And they argue that the UFC did this through unlawful tactics, breaking antitrust laws through three components: one, acquisitions; two, exclusive contracts; and three, coercion. They argue Zuffa paid 20% of his event revenues to fighters, whereas they would have received 50% or more without Zuffa's unlawful scheme consisting of those three components. The plaintiffs intend to offer evidence that without the scheme, Zuffa would have paid his class members between $894 million and $1.6 billion more than it did during the class period, so they want restitution for this. They argue that they are entitled to this money. Under acquisitions, the plaintiffs will talk about how the WFA was bought by the UFC and then disappeared into the UFC. Same thing happened with the WEC, Pride, and Strikeforce. Under exclusive contracts, they're going to talk about extensions. The contracts allow Zuffa to extend its contracts under many circumstances, including if a fighter was injured, declined to fight, won a championship, or retired. Exclusive negotiation: if the term were ever to end, the contracts required that fighters negotiate exclusively with Zuffa for 1 to 3 months before even negotiating with another promoter. And the right to match: the contracts also gave Zuffa up to a year after the end of the exclusive negotiation period to match any competing offer from another promoter, delaying a fighter's ability to fight for anyone else and decreasing the incentive for other promoters. Under coercion, they're going to bring up an email from Joe Silva, which they argue reveals Zuffa's strategy, where when a fighter's coming towards the end of his current contract, they come up to him with a new contract, but they say it's for relatively low compensation. If the fighter accepts, the result is low pay. If he declines, he's going to be put on the prelims in his next fight against a really tough guy who could put the fighter's health at risk. Also under coercion, they're going to bring up a statement from Dana White. I can tell you this, man, you don't call Joe Silva and turn down an effing fight. You might as well say effing rip up my contract. He will. He's a mean little effer. You don't call Joe Silva and tell him you don't want to effing fight anybody. You might as well just take the fight, because it's going to be worse if you refuse. So those are some of the arguments that the plaintiffs are going to make in this case, but the UFC are going to bring the plaintiffs to the witness stand and bring up some of the things that they have said and done in the past, which the UFC argue are contradictory to what they're saying in the case. Like Kung Lee in 2012 wrote a letter to the California state legislator where he said, "I have reps and advisors that assist me in negotiating agreements, and I do not believe that any of the provisions of the agreements contain provisions that are in any manner coercive." UFC will bring up that Brandon Vera signed a sworn declaration under the penalty of perjury in 2011 stating that the UFC is the best MMA organization to fight in, including because the UFC provided him with the best compensation and incentives, expanded the most resources in promoting him and the events he fought in, and that better MMA fighters have lots of options currently. And the UFC is going to bring up an email that Nate Corey wrote in 2011 where he said, "The UFC has made me known through the world in the fight game, and I have no desire to fight anywhere else. You guys have always been very clear and straightforward with me." And the UFC is also going to argue that although plaintiffs complain about the injury extension clause in UFC contracts, plaintiff Kingsbury repeatedly requested that the UFC apply that clause in his contract so he can heal and improve his fighting skills. UFC is also going to bring up 5 fighter witnesses to testify on their behalf, including Michael Bisping, Donald Cerrone, who fought for the WEC when the UFC bought them and absorbed them, then fought for the UFC several times, Michael Chandler, who fought for Bellator and the UFC, Chael Sonnen, who fought for the UFC, Bellator, WEC, Bodog, and many other promotions, and Misha Tate, who fought for Strikeforce when the UFC bought them and absorbed them, and then fought for the UFC many times and won a belt there. So those are some of the things that are going to be brought up for around 4 weeks starting April 15th in a federal courthouse in Las Vegas. But in the court of public opinion, you can state yours in the comment section below.